I met Richard in his 50th year, a new friendship with a country neighbor that already seemed fully formed. With my dog riding shotgun, I soon began traveling to his old farmhouse to assist with his design work, first on weekends, then in the evenings. Then I quit my job to become his partner in a new shared business. I enjoyed the work and the pleasure of our time together, the ease, the trust, the simpatico, the simple pasta meals, and what I wasn't yet ready to acknowledge as love. We've now been partners in life and work for almost 30 years. We share a home, office, studio, and virtually every meal, most of them in deep conversation, contentment, and gratitude. Richard has always been active, playful, and engaged with deep reserves of energy, compassion, curiosity, and seeming good health. But in his 60s, he experienced episodes of lightheadedness, one of which caused him to momentarily lose sight while behind the wheel. The cause of this near blackout was an unusually low heart rate. With a pacemaker to maintain him at a minimum of 60 beats per minute, he seemed back to his old, young self. Aging itself is not an illness, but Richard has now been treated for skin and prostate cancers, for chronic, severe obstructive sleep apnea, and recently, a mysterious GI bleed whose diagnosis and repair required swallowing a blinking camera the size of a multivitamin. He rarely complains, he always declines an offer of pain medication, and he walked out of the hospital unassisted the morning after his hip replacement. I'm grateful for the privileged access to medical interventions that have improved, enhanced, and lengthened Richard's life and our life together. I'd been reluctant to acknowledge that first sign of his slow-motion heart failure, an unsettling diagnosis and term that we have now had time to adjust to, if not exactly accept. We even laughed when a fellow cardiology patient in a waiting room joked that maybe Richard should no longer be renewing 3-year magazine subscriptions or buying green bananas. Along with meetings and flights and deadlines, our calendar was now flagged with Richard's new regular doctor appointments. When I'd asked what he'd learned after one cardiology visit, Richard told me everything was fine, but the only details he could actually share were about the cardiologist's mother and her recent vacation to South America. I soon began joining him and taking notes at all his medical appointments. And over nearly 20 years, those notes tracked 2 pacemaker changes, 2 ablations, and 2 cardioversions, all to control and regulate the pacing of his heart, which, for the past few weeks, has been in persistent atrial fibrillation. His upper chamber is beating out its own rapid, irregular rhythm. And we'll soon head back to the Heart Center for an appointment with the electrophysiologist to learn possible next steps. Perhaps another cardioversion, think shock paddles administered under light sedation, or an AV node ablation, which is a surgical procedure to sever the electrical connection between the upper and lower chambers, making Richard 100% dependent on his pacemaker to keep the beat. The cardiologist and his team of, quote, plumbers and electricians are working to slow the progression of Richard's heart failure, managing symptoms, making small changes in his medication, and keeping us informed about what options remain. Meanwhile, our primary care doctor says the keys to a good life are to simply eat well, sleep well, and eat well, and live well. And so Richard and I will continue working, feeding the birds, and planting more flowering bulbs in anticipation of another shared spring. We will continue living the life we share with a silly dog who makes us laugh and makes us walk, in the home that we built, all within the embrace of a community of neighbors and friends whom we love and who add a rich dimension to our lives. We will do our best to navigate the road ahead with humor and grace, and we will continue buying green bananas.